Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wolfgang Croskey. I am the CEO of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce, and this is a continuation of our interview with the candidates. We have interviewed candidates for the County Supervisor District 5 race, and we are interviewing candidates for the Pittsburgh City Council race. As a business organization, it's important that we allow not only our members but the general public to understand a little bit more about each candidate, and we feel that these one-on-one interviews are the only true way for the mass public to get a glimpse into each candidate and to see who they are, what their policy stance is, and let's get to know them. So with that, we're lucky enough to have Council Member Jelani Killings, who is a current council member on the Pittsburgh City Council, and he is seeking re-election. So Councilman, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Wolf, and appreciate this opportunity just to have this conversation. My name is Jelani Killings. I'm running for re-election for Pittsburgh City Council. It's really just been my honor for the past 8 years to serve the city of Pittsburgh. We've made a lot of progress, and definitely I know we can talk a lot about that during this time that we have. But for me, this is homegrown, a deep love and appreciation for this community. And anybody that's grown up here, I think we can see a lot of the changes that have happened over the years. And so there's something to take great pride in that. And then also looking at how we continue to carve our space out in the region. I think there's a lot of things that are happening both within the greater Bay Area and then also being within the state of California that we really just have to make sure that we're preserving our identity as a community, but also setting ourselves up for long-term fiscal sustainability. So for myself, that's really been my focus over the past 8 years. It's really about government accountability. How can we increase transparency? So with that, some of the things that we've seen happen is, with our subcommittees, we streamline those. We used to have about 19 subcommittees, and making that to really 5 standing subcommittees that we can really focus on the work. We can manage the time between council members and staff, but then also making those available to the public and having them video recorded, because a lot of the conversations that we have that we ultimately make decisions on at city council meetings happen at subcommittees. So open that up to the public. Also spearheading performance measurement. So now as we go through our goals, workshops every year, we make sure that we're now putting in specific measurements that we want to mark and indicate as it relates to our progress and performance on being able to meet certain benchmarks. So whether that's beautification, whether that's improvement of our streets and roads, whether that's looking at our crime rates, as well as economic development and different factors around that, how can we be transparent with the public so that they know the decisions that we're making, what we're striving for, and then also the progress that we're making along the way. Also with that, economic development, public safety are big components for me, and also seeking re-election because we have a lot of long-term plans that have just begun to implement, and also some that are going to take really 5 to the next 10 years to really see come to fruition. And so it's really about having that experience, having a steady hand at the wheel, but also the understanding of not only the issues in the community, but also the regional collaboration and conversations that have been happening that directly impact us here in the community. So definitely love to talk about all things Pittsburgh. I love to talk about policy. I love to talk about the impact and really the work that we've been doing as a city council, and just hope that all those in the community can feel the positive change that's happening. I really believe that we have a lot to be proud of, and there's a lot more work ahead to make sure that we keep moving forward. So happy to be here today.
Oh, thank you. And I think, I notice I say that term a lot, I think. So having run for office for city council, I kind of know the game that goes afoot for that. Part of it is people showing how Pittsburgh they are. And rather than asking you how many car shows have you been to and how many orange shirts you have, a candidate for office in another race has slammed our community and has stated that crime is off the charts, there's nowhere to eat, we have no grocery stores. As a council member, I think part of responsibilities that you shoulder is defending our city and our work. So what say ye?
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you hear narratives, especially false narratives about your community. And the work that we've been doing in Pittsburg is really self-evident. When I'm going out, whether I'm in Pittsburg or engaging with folks that are in different communities, they're taking notice about the positive changes that are happening within our community. And I think that really tells the story. So when we talk about the work that we've done in terms of addressing public safety, our department is really second to none when it comes to the county. When you look at the training, the resources, and what we've done, when you think about Pittsburgh 20, 30 years ago, and you talk to people about public safety, it's night and day. So they know that we're going in the right direction when it comes to community safety, as well as what we're doing on that front. I'm really proud of the economic development work that we're seeing happen. We're seeing a lot of investment in the city of Pittsburgh. One thing that I'm proud of since being on council, we've seen our general fund revenues grow by 50%. So we're seeing that there
5-0?
5-0. So when I came in, we had a general fund revenue of about 40 million. Now we're at about 60 plus million. And so seeing that type of growth, so that's coming through sales tax, property tax primarily. So we're seeing some healthy investment and growth within our community. But also just within the past 2 years, we've seen over $200 million of private development investment within our community alone. So there are positive things that are happening in the community. I've seen the false narrative about grocery stores. We have a number of grocery stores serving our community. We know that there's still work to be done, especially when we're looking at over off of Buchanan and the Highlands Ranch area. So there is a focus to continue to bring more commercial amenities, but we definitely have a number that are serving the community, and we just attracted the new Sprouts that'll be opening up in the coming year over there in the San Marcos area. And these are just things that we're really proud of. And even more so further on that, you know, when I look around the county, specifically I look at our neighbors, there's a lot of dysfunction that you see in a lot of different municipalities, a lot of councils and cities. And not to bash any particular cities, but I'm proud when you look at our city council, the professionalism that we have, the respect that we have for one another. And we know that it's not about egos, it isn't about hitting agendas, but it's about the love for community and improving the quality of life for the residents and the businesses that call Pittsburgh home. And that's what I really love about our city council. I love about the city. Pittsburgh pride is real. We know that within the community, and it's the same even within City Hall, from the city council also to when you look at our city staff. We have those that are even from this community, those that have a heart in seeing Pittsburgh move forward. And one thing that we've really seen over the time that I've been on the council is that when you have city councils that are always trying to make the news or always doing things to undermine one another or creating new pet projects, it really undermines the ability of staff to do their day-to-day work. And so one thing that we've really seen in the city of Pittsburgh is that because we can create a shared vision and we allow our city staff, who are wonderful, to be able to carry out that vision, it allows them to go above and beyond. And one area that we've seen that is with grants. And so in the city of Pittsburgh, from the time that I've been on council, we have applied and been awarded over $38 million in grants that have come to the city of Pittsburgh. This is dollars that are not coming from, you know, in terms of local sales tax and things like that, but this is money coming from state, federal resources that we're drawing into our community to improve and enhance our parks, to provide youth programming, to improve road conditions and road projects, to have public safety initiatives that are taking place by our police department. These are additional funds on top of our general fund that we've been able to secure, that staff has been able to go out, and really excited about that. So when I look at the progress of Pittsburgh and I look around and some of the mess that I see going on in other cities, I am proud to say that I'm a council member in the city of Pittsburgh, representing the best community that has the best culture, the best diversity, the most pride that you will find in Contra Costa County is right here in the city of Pittsburgh, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, this weekend was at San Francisco for Fleet Week, both for the Italian Heritage Parade and then also for the band competition, and had heard officials, I don't know what degree of official, but officials from both events talk about how important it is for Pittsburgh to come because we bring the crowd.
Come on.
You know, so what can I say? It's a very real thing, and it's a great. Yeah, there's areas for improvement. There are problems we have in this city, and there's things that we're working towards improving. I don't think there's any perfect city, and I don't think
Right.
anybody's going to expect a council member to make things perfect. But overall, there have been a lot of improvements and a lot of things that we can definitely be proud of. So you've been a council member for just a few years now, a couple cycles. What do you feel is greatest accomplishment?
Ooh, greatest accomplishment. So I'll do it a number of fronts. So one thing for me is I like long-term planning. One thing as I've set out in terms of serving in the community is that a lot of times elected officials are looking for short-term wins. Like, what can I do right now that everybody can give me credit for?
Yeah, what's good on the news cycle?
Yeah, and for me, it started with the planning, right? So, it's really kind of that thing, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail type thing. So coming in, we didn't have really much of an economic development focus. We had less than one full-time equivalent staff that was really focused on economic development, and we really didn't have a cohesive plan in terms of how we were carrying out our activities, whether that's to support local businesses, whether that's around expansion and retention, or as well as even with attraction. So I was able to spearhead the development of our economic development action and strategic plan. So that's really looking at initiatives specifically that we can carry out over the next 5 to 10 years to really create an environment conducive for business development and investment. And really proud of that, because now what you're seeing, and with that, we've created our community and economic development department and really increased staffing for our planning department, engineering. And why that's important with economic development efforts is because when people come to the city, they want to pull a permit, they are interested in investing within the community. The time that it takes for them to get through processes can make or break that investment happening. And so we're now seeing that we're being recognized in the region. I know some may have heard even the interview by local redeveloper Sean McCauley, who's talked about, Pittsburgh being the best place for folks that want to develop when you're looking regionally, and especially here in Contra Costa County. So that's definitely something that we have worked towards, and we're starting to see that fruit come to fruition. Another area that I've been able to focus on is I was able to draft and create and author our Youth and Young Adult Services Master Plan. And that plan is essentially saying that one thing we always hear within our community is we need more things for our youth. We need more development. If they're not in sports or they're not in band, what do we have for them to do? We knew that at the time that we created the plan, we didn't have really much youth centers available for youth to go to. So we brought back the Marina Community Center as a hub for youth development and community activities. But what the plan does is that it brings together the city, the school district, and all of our community-based organizations and says, hey, we're seeing, tens of millions of dollars, really more than that if you really look at the school district as the main youth service provider. But you're seeing all of this money go into our youth. Are we happy with the results that we're getting? Mm-hmm. Are we meeting in terms of some of the service gap areas in terms of addressing the needs of our youth and the families within our community? And so we were able to draft that plan, and now we're looking to implement it now. The My Brother's Keeper initiative has come out of that, in which we've identified key benchmarks and milestones that come to college and career preparedness. Also, as we're looking at in terms of our youth and job employment. So these are key things that we've been working on that I'm really excited about even through that plan. I think other areas that I'm really excited about is that as we look at not only economic development and support for local businesses, but we're seeing a bit of a revitalization even in our Old Town corridor. We're seeing a lot of new businesses come in. When you look at over the past few years, you look at Nick's Sandwiches, you look at Dr. Bird, you look at now Downtown Cafe, you see now staple restaurants down there with La Veranda, you have Lumpy's, who now owns their building. We're looking at Skyview Noodle. We have, of course, our landmark New Mecca Cafe. You go down to the waterfront, you have Dale Vino, which is now a new hot spot for social gathering. You want some fresh seafood, you want some crab, some fresh fish, go down to Fisherman's Catch, and you just see this energy that is building from Old Town and even throughout the city as we look at what's happening in San Marcos now. we were over 20 years without seeing any type of commercial development on that side of town. And through specific actions of the council, so we first rezoned the parcel that would allow for commercial development. And then even with that, when we were looking at working with site selectors, when Sprouts came on, they wanted improvements at that intersection. And so the council made the decision to make those improvements. And now we're seeing a new commercial development happen with Sprouts as the main tenant and other auxiliary commercial retailers that'll be there as well for much needed amenities that are needed in that area. And we're going to see it grow. Whether you're talking about the Al's Ranch area or even going up to Spilkner, we have other commercial sites that are designated for future growth and for development. I think another area that I'd be remiss to not talk about is what we're seeing now with our beautification and road improvements. So coming on council, we knew that we had a deferred maintenance backlog with streets and trying to improve that when we're looking at our pavement conditions. And so in that, back in 2019, myself and current Mayor Benales, we were serving on an infrastructure ad hoc. And at the time, we made a decision that we were going to add $500,000 annually as a line item for street improvements in the budget. And so starting there, we started to be able to fund a few projects. And then after COVID, we realized because of prudent budgeting and fiscal responsibility, we realized some real surpluses that we had. And so through general fund surplus, Measure M surplus, as well as some funding that was available through ARPA, we made some historic investments in road improvements. Just last year alone, $12 million of road improvements that were made. And this CIP, we're going to see another $9 million of street improvements that are going to be made. That makes a big impact even as we go back to economic development. It's about, one, keeping our community safe, and then also in terms of beautification and making this a conducive environment for businesses to prosper. And then now people can see as well, as I talked about that $38 million of grants that have come in, those are going to things, as we're seeing, we're going to have a full revitalization of our Central Harbor Park downtown, the boat launch facilities, and also that waterfront access. Many people have seen the Reviving Heart of Pittsburgh project that was grant funded, to where you see the new Pittsburgh letters. You see now the entryway going into Old Town. You also see around town the waymaking signs that are going up. And I think a lot of these small pieces, as we talked about economic development, we're talking about growth, we're talking about momentum. It's a lot of these small pieces that I'm proud of because they show that we're going in the right direction. And I know that there are some even bigger wins that are on the horizon.
Nice. So with a lot of projects there and things that have taken place, there's still spots in Pittsburgh that are the commercial spots that are vacant, right? We haven't been able to fill all of our spaces, even though we have these new benefits, roads are getting improved and all this different thing. The spaces have been filled. So what do you think is the missing ingredient, or is it because it's not a council's role and that's why, or just why haven't we been able to finish some of these items 100% as far as improving some of these specifically commercial areas and getting businesses into them?
Yeah, there's definitely a number of things and factors that go into it, but it's absolutely something that the council is looking at in terms of vacancy rates or especially blighted properties. One area that we've really seen now an increased focus on and attention to detail is with code enforcement. And so we're really trying to make sure that staff is equipped, but also finding out that we need to contact these property owners. If we have long-standing sites that are vacant and blighted, how much contact have we had with those property owners? What have the conversations been? And do they need to escalate? And so that's one area where we want to make sure that there's accountability, but also it's not coming, with the stick, but hey, we're saying, hey, there's opportunities for you to be able to come into alignment, on your own, but if not, then we're going to have to use whatever is available to us to making sure that we have responsible property owners. The other area of that is that we know that we've been hit hard and we're now trying to reverse course because of the impacts of Prop 47. And so Prop 36 is something that I do support and I believe is going to be a tool that can help, even though there's other factors that will still need to be addressed in terms of prosecution and other aspects. But we've seen retail theft hit our community, whether it's broken windows to our local businesses, and that costs a lot, man. When you have local businesses that are trying to survive, they're barely skating on their margins, and all of a sudden they have this, cost that comes because of an unfortunate incident that really takes a toll on our community and then also for our local businesses. So being able to support from that standpoint. And so there are a few things that I want to talk about. So with code enforcement, we addressed that as a factor in trying to address blight and some of the vacancies. But also, as we're talking about repurposing some of our commercial corridors, one that we're looking at right now, which is more of a larger project, is Century Plaza. Century Plaza has always been, I think, one of our key corridors. So if you think of, streets of Brentwood, what they have, if you think of Veranda out in Concord, Century Plaza is kind of what that would be for us. We have the movie theater, we have some local restaurants that are there, chain restaurants that are there, as well as some shopping amenities that are there. So we know that Target was a setback, but it also provides an opportunity to repurpose and kind of reimagine what that could be. So we're looking to work with the property owner in terms of what we can do. How can we create more placemaking at Century Plaza to where it's not just go park your car, go in a store, go home, but how could it be something where people can actually hang out in the area? I went and saw a movie, I may be hanging out in the plaza, may go to a store to buy something, go get some ice cream at Baskin Robbins. And so really creating that, I think placemaking is a big focus that we're looking at as a council. And even as we're seeing some of the shopping centers that have been long standing as far as vacant and blighted, how can they be repurposed? So you're seeing a lot of even rezoning. We just adopted our new 2040 general plan, which looks at some of these commercial areas and saying how could there maybe be some mixed use that is put there that would allow there to be more foot traffic to support those commercial businesses. It's not a easy fix. We don't have a wand that we can wave to make things happen, but it is the small steps. It is the incremental change and progress that we're making. And then even with that, we're looking at the trends even nationally. A lot of businesses are hurting. Retail is changing. Things, consumer behaviors are changing.
Walgreens just announced they're closing 1,200 locations.
Right. So consumer, behavior is changing. Corporate entities are making, decisions based on their finances, and we're gonna have to deal with that one way or the other. But what we can do as far as Pittsburgh is, one, I encourage everybody support and shop local. That's the best thing that you can do, is to support local businesses, keep the money here in our community, and by doing that we can show, one, that not only businesses can prosper within our community, but that becomes a great attraction tool for others to come and locate here in the community as well. But it is something that we're focused on. One thing that we have done as a council is that we have a contract with Retail Strategies, who's really going out and representing the community, representing the city, and trying to have conversations with a lot of not only site selectors and brokers, but with a lot of these commercial businesses that we would like to see in our community, and representing and working with our economic development department to say, hey, how can we continue to position Pittsburgh and show the development that's happening here, the energy that is here, and the opportunities that are here for businesses. And so it's too early to really share about some of the conversations that have been had on that front, but there are some promising conversations, and we look forward to continuing to do our work to attract more commercial amenities for our residents here in the city.
So you brought up Century Plaza. It's definitely one of our largest retail commercial centers in the city. And because I know you've run a very positive campaign. I think most of the candidates coming out of Pittsburgh have been running very positive campaigns. And this isn't to trash a neighboring city, but one of the factors is that we have a neighboring city that a lot of crime is spilling over into that shopping center, and so people may not feel comfortable, or businesses have left because of that. How do you, as a council member, if reelected, work with neighboring cities to help with that? Because we could have great stuff, but regionally we have these factors, these influences that are spilling over, and ultimately our community is paying the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is definitely, nothing happens in a vacuum. And so what happens in our neighboring cities definitely impacts us as well. So to your point, so with that is really the collaboration. We know that our previous police chief is now serving in a neighboring city.
We got connections.
So there are links that have already been made, but I think it's just always having open dialogue. We can work with other communities in terms of expressing our concerns, and then try to work with them collaboratively to address, especially when I look at, we're talking about kind of that border on Century Plaza, and even as you're going even towards Century Plaza, going towards Leland, that there are some things that need to be addressed. We've expressed those concerns, but it's an ongoing conversation. And then you just hope that there's some accountability that's taken. There's opportunities, with elections that come up, or maybe there are folks that come in that will be more open in terms of addressing some of these concerns. But I think overall, it's the constant conversations. But what we can do as a city, I know that we ended up putting a substation over there in Century Plaza to try to help in terms of working with local business owners over there, and to have that presence to help and try to curb some of the retail theft and the negative impacts that we've seen. But the conversations are ongoing, to answer your question, in terms of working with our neighbors. And that's both on the east side and on the western portion going over to Concord. I know it's different than in terms of talking about public safety, but more so as you're talking about regional development with the Concord Naval Weapons Station and the impact that that's going to have on the region and us specifically. So those conversations have to be ongoing to make sure that we can raise our concerns as a city, but then also work collaboratively as we're talking about regional prosperity.
All right, so throw you on the spot here, just because we can do that. Favorite restaurant in Pittsburgh?
Ooh.
And what's the favorite dish there?
That's tough. Ooh, that's tough. I got a number, so.
All right, I'll allow you to throw out a couple out there.
So definitely a newer favorite is Fire Spice. I love the Rasta pasta. And they just released the Rasta pasta with the oxtail, man. So definitely recommend that. I'm a staple, grew up on Mecca, so I love me a good wet chicken burrito, super wet chicken burrito from Mecca, which is always a go-to. And then as I'm thinking about just other favorites in the community, this is a on spot. Let me think. I'm a seafood lover, so it's not necessarily fast food, but like I said, fresh seafood from Fisherman's Catch. You can't beat it. The holiday season's coming up. You're going to want your crab. I love crab. We do our crab boils, so definitely going down to Fisherman's Catch and getting fresh seafood. If I want a fat, nice, juicy burger, whether it's Lumpy's or Nations. I grew up on Nations, but become a lover of Lumpy's, as well. So there's so many, it's hard to just
the Nations burger, you get a burger and a salad with a fat chunk of lettuce in there. So.
And that's just, growing up here, man, I look, in terms of if I want some Chinese food, I'm going to Uncle Wang's, grabbing some Chinese food. Wonton soup. I love some wonton soup. So there are so many. And, I could probably name my favorite at so many restaurants here. But those are some of definitely my local favorites.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to try the Rasta pasta. I don't think I've had that one. I've had a couple other dishes. But
really good, really good. Man, I just want to shout out so many. So we had the opportunity to go to the new Pupusa Time.
Okay.
The El Salvadorian restaurant that's over now in Highlands Ranch. And definitely recommend them as well, man. That's authentic El Salvadorian food. And man, me and the family just had a great time, man. They're eating some of those cultural dishes and with that, just sharing, and not to go off tangent, but my daughter is in the dual immersion program for the Pittsburgh Unified School District, and shout out to PUSD and the dual immersion program, but getting immersed, in Hispanic and Latino culture. So every time we have an opportunity to support some of the local business and restaurants and allow her to exercise her Spanish and interact with folks, it's always a joy, but definitely appreciate that authentic touch with the El Salvadorian food that they had at Pupusa Time.
Nice. Yeah, I've been there myself, and it is definitely it is good variety of pupusas as well. Yeah. So there may be some people out there that have not voted for you in previous elections. What do you think you've done either differently, or maybe that's been made more public, that may convince somebody to give you a shot and vote for you?
Yeah, for me overall, I think it's the temperament, it's the overall kind of independent thought and the focus in terms of the decisions that we're making as a city council. Coming in, obviously, we all have passion and we have things that we essentially want to set out to do and accomplish. But overall, I think what's made me a better council member over these 8 years is being able to listen. I think I've run in a total of a few hundred meetings over these years, and you hear a lot of community perspective, and that's the great thing about it when you're serving an elected office and you're in public service, is that you get to hear the needs, you get to hear about what folks want to see, you get to hear about the issues and what folks want to see addressed, and also the thoughts and ideas that people have in terms of moving the city forward. And so for me, I think that I've become a better listener in terms of being able to hear the perspectives of the community that comes out and share their thoughts with the city council, but also being effective now and in terms of taking that information, understanding city processes and how to move through them and how to get results. And I think that that's very important as you're looking for elected leaders, is that you want folks that will be able to get things done. I think I've been able to show over 8 years that there's a track record of getting things done, but also now as we're looking towards the future to really work with community, especially our local community-based organizations. As I shared about the Youth and Young Adult Services Master Plan, I have a lot of conversations with our local sports youth service providers. And so one thing that I've constantly heard is generally about the lack of access to facilities or the pricing of facilities. And so we have local sports organizations that serve our local youth that are going to neighboring cities because the price is cheaper. And so for me, it's how are we working with them, how are we working with the district to making sure that we keep these organizations that serve our youth and our families in our community, because they also serve as feeder programs to our high school. They also bring regional recognition when they do well. We have folks that go off to go to professional sports. And so there's such an ecosystem around it that we want to make sure that we're doing our part to address the needs of our local community-based organizations. But for all of those that are out there, whether you have voted for me in the past or not, I hope that you have seen the work that has been done as a council, that we've been responsible, we've been prudent, and that we've been open to listen in terms of the needs that have been brought to our attention, and that we've made meaningful decisions that have had positive impacts for the community.
So if you're re-elected for another 4 years, what would be the one item that you would really like to see accomplished? Now, obviously, you don't get to just do it every one as one council member. There's 5 members on the council, but over the next 4 years, if re-elected, what's the one item that you would really, at the end of that 4 years, be like, yeah, we did it?
Can I give you 3?
3. Let's see. Yeah, you can give us 3.
And they may be a little bit interconnected, but there are definitely some specific things that I would like to see in this next term. So one is the expansion of Pittsburg Power. So,
okay. And explain what is Pittsburg Power, because a lot of people are like, what are you talking about?
So for those that don't know, Pittsburg has its own municipal power company. And so this was established decades ago, a few decades ago, maybe 20 years ago. And so with Pittsburg Power, right now we supply, essentially we are the energy provider for Mare Island, Island Energy. And so we also through Pittsburg Power have been able to do specific energy projects here in the city of Pittsburgh. So if you don't know about the Transbay Cable is a power line that goes from Pittsburgh underneath the bay all the way to San Francisco and powers a great percentage of their electricity load in San Francisco. But with Pittsburg Power, we've utilized it as an economic development arm. So the revenues that come from it have supported economic development efforts, as well as even supporting community-based organizations. And now we're looking at, we've done well in terms of serving over on Mare Island. How can we utilize with growing PG&E costs? How can this give us an economic development or competitive edge for large industrial users or folks that may be able to bring large employment sectors to Pittsburgh? And so we're going through now the study with PG&E to get a new interconnect. The first project will be able to potentially serve the new data center, but also our upgrade at our water treatment facility plant. And so by being able to serve load in Pittsburg, it will create a new economic development tool for us to be able to attract new business here to the city of Pittsburg. So that is definitely going to be some time to fully implement. But right now we're going through the process of working with PG&E to get those interconnects and also trying to secure the users here locally that will be able to make that a feasible project moving forward. Along with that is really trying to see a focus on the increased improvement of public facilities as well as infrastructure. That's going to be a continued focus for the City Council and for myself. So what we've done here in the City Council in the past few years is we've created a basically 10-zone system to where basically the city is divided into 10 zones in terms of making sure that we can address every zone within the next 10 to 15 years. So that means we are working towards every street being paved and improving our pavement condition index. And so continuing that focus, being disciplined to making sure that we're putting the funding in those areas, but also with public facilities. I do want to highlight at our upcoming council meeting, this goes back to the conversations that we've heard for the time that I've been on council, is the city park restrooms. And so we know a lot of sports leagues, a lot of community gatherings at City Park, and those restrooms were just not up to par. I'm proud to say that our next city council meeting, we will be approving the contract to start construction of the new bathroom facilities at City Park. And so with that, that's the focus that I have over the next 4 years as well, is how do we continue to maintain and improve our public facilities, being in our parks and other amenities that the public uses. And then lastly, I said the infrastructure, talked about Pittsburg Power, is really seeing a fruition our vision for youth sports tourism. So we have the Dream Course that is coming online now. The facility is being constructed. We are working with the operator that will be there that is from the Ultimate Fieldhouse in Walnut Creek. And so they have a tremendous track record of work that they've done in terms of youth sports tourism and really sports tourism in general. And they're going to bring that to the city of Pittsburg. And then along with that, we have the design and looking in the future within the next month or so to execute in terms of construction for the premier fields that'll be right across the street. And so we're really looking to build out youth sports tourism, carving that niche. We know that we have a number of youth serving organizations here locally, but also trying to carve out for the region and the dollars that are being spent in terms of youth sports tourism. So those are definitely 3 areas for focus and continued emphasis on in the next term. And then overall, like there's just so much, one thing that I'm really excited about is the potential to bring back Inspire Pittsburg. And that was one thing that I was able to spearhead and implement back in 2020. And it was something really just to recognize our community-based organizations and individuals that are doing tremendous work. And I think that that's something that we have to get back to, is celebrating the great organizations and individuals that make Pittsburg what it is. And then also as a way to promote the great things that are happening here in Pittsburg and encouraging people to get involved. One thing that I constantly hear and that I'm going to constantly continue to put out there is that we want to make sure that the residents not only know about the great things happening in the city, but also how they can get engaged. And so I always hear a lot, especially when it comes to events or it comes to things that happen. Hey, I didn't know about it. Why didn't the city promote it? And so
the city's job to market everybody's event.
Right. And so there's a lot that goes around that. And so from a city perspective, I want to encourage all of Pittsburgh residents and those that are interested in what's happening in the city to do a few things. One is, if you're on social media, just follow the city's social media pages. Follow the Facebook, follow the Instagram. There's always information being pushed out through those mediums. Definitely encourage you to sign up for email distribution lists. So if you're interested about decisions being made at Planning Commission, City Council, or you're just interested about new recreation opportunities and programs that are coming up, sign up for the distribution list. You will get those emails. You'll probably get tired of receiving the emails because you'll see so much that is going on in the city of Pittsburgh. And then I always encourage people, if you've never been to a city council meeting, I know that it's tough. We're a working community. We're a commuting community. And so you're not going to be able to get to every city council meeting, and you wouldn't be expected to. But I would encourage you, if you can, make it to one a year. Just come out to one city council meeting. It'll really change your perception about how decisions are made. But then also you'll be able to see that you can lend your voice to the discussion in terms of how things are happening within the community. And so just wanted to share that from a community engagement perspective, because we want to make sure people have the information, they know what's happening, and they can see how decisions are made, and just want to offer up those few ways that you can stay in tune with what's happening in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, there's here too. There's nothing to do in this city, and granted, there's always, we could do more, but there's definitely a lot that takes place, and there's a lot of opportunity. I think people want it spoon-fed to them. I will say it, so you don't have to worry about saying as a candidate. People don't want to put forth the effort to try to connect with the different organizations and what they're putting out there. They don't realize that the social media networks have algorithms that make it hard to reach people, and there's a lot to it, so it's not as easy as just, let me put out a Facebook post and hope that it works. But definitely connect with the city, the chamber. There's quite a few organizations that have information that we're putting out there trying to get people to come to the events. I mean, just this month alone, there's at least 3 city Halloween events. The chamber has one in partnership with Sierra Pacific. So, I mean, there's a lot taking place. Well, I want to thank you for the time. We could go on and on. If you don't know, Mr. Killings, when it comes to policy, by far understands the process the best. And he and I have done it for a long time, talk about policy, and I think most people would just be like, whatever, So want to thank you for your time and give you the opportunity to give kind of closing remarks. How can people learn more about you? Since the last time you ran, a lot of people have moved to Pittsburgh and maybe don't know you. So how do they get in touch with you? How do they learn more? And why should people vote for you?
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Wolf, for this opportunity to have this dialogue. Once again, my name is Jelani Killings, running for re-election for Pittsburgh City Council. It's really been, once again, a humbling experience to be able to represent and to serve in the capacity as a council member over the past 8 years. My focus, once again, has really been on government efficiency, accountability, making sure that you as residents can see how decisions that we're making are impacting the quality of life, and then also making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable in terms of goals that we have set to achieve as a city. Really proud of the progress that we're making in terms of economic development. We are really turning the corner here in the city of Pittsburgh, as I've shared about revenue growth, also shared about really the development, the beautification that's happening here in the city of Pittsburgh, and there is so much more to come. Really excited in terms of what we're doing in terms of public safety, and really proud in terms of how our community is coming together in terms of sharing with others about the great things that are happening here in the city of Pittsburgh. And so in running for re-election, for me, it's really about continuing the work of keeping Pittsburgh moving forward. And I just know that we need experienced leadership in this time. There are a lot of things that are changing, as we shared a little bit here about today, as it relates to, what's going on in private industry, when it comes to retail, when it comes to commercial development. When we're here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of conversation about housing and how do we address housing, making sure that we're protecting Pittsburgh and that we're also elevating our voice to making sure that our needs are being met. When we talk about the future of Pittsburgh, when we talk about addressing commute, we talk about addressing congestion, the biggest thing that we have to advocate for is that we need job centers here in Pittsburgh, and more specifically in a broad sense, East Contra Costa County. So you hear a lot of conversations in the Bay Area about reducing greenhouse gas emissions and all these conversations about how you get people on public transportation. Well, the biggest factor that we can do to address Highway 4 congestion and all of the GHG that is being released in our communities is by reversing the commute and bringing more job opportunities locally. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to champion that message on behalf of the city and region so that we can realize and bring back the days where Pittsburgh and our local communities were job centers, providing livable wage jobs to our community here in the city of Pittsburgh. The repurposing of our industrial sites is also a key thing for me. city moving forward. So we have a lot of industrial land that is now available to be repurposed, and working with property owners as we're continuing to move forward with our economic development goals to see how we can bring some of these emerging sectors and employment centers to the city of Pittsburgh. If you want to learn more about my campaign, about the work that's been done over the past 8 years, please go to my website, JelaniKillings.com. There is so much that I'm excited about, and once again, I hope that you're inspired and that you feel good about what's happening in Pittsburgh, and that if you have concerns or things that you believe are not being addressed, I would love to hear from you so that we can continue to work to make Pittsburgh a place that we can all be proud of. So with that, ballots are already out. We're 21 days away from the election. I encourage you, vote early, vote Jelani. Make sure that you tell your family and your friends. Let's keep the progress in Pittsburgh moving forward, and let them know to re-elect Jelani Killings for Pittsburgh City Council.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, my name's Wolfgang Croskey, CEO of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce. This interview is a part of a series. We're interviewing all the candidates for City Council, and we've concluded the candidate interviews for County Supervisor District 5. You'll be able to find them on the Chamber's Facebook page or YouTube channel, etc. So again, thank you, and be on the lookout for the rest of the interviews. Have a great day.